On a lonely Scottish island, the earth burns, the sea sighs, and whiskey learns to breathe fire. Tonight, we chase the smoke, then pair it to perfection.
Welcome to the Cigar and Whiskey Podcast, where every episode takes you deeper into the stories, traditions, and flavors that make cigars and spirits unforgettable. So pour a glass, light a stick, and settle in.
Picture this: a cold wind coming off the Atlantic, carrying salt, mist, and the faint smell of something burning. Not firewood, not coal, something deeper. That's the smell of peat. And on Islay, it's the scent of home. This little island off Scotland's west coast doesn't look like much from afar. No tall forests, no soft rolling hills, just bogs, rain, and rock. But beneath those bogs lies the secret that gave Scotch whiskey its soul: peat. It's not glamorous. It's old plant matter, moss, heather, seaweed, even a little salt air, all slowly decaying underwater over thousands of years. It's nature's time capsule, soft, dark, and surprisingly full of fire. For centuries, peat was just fuel. Islanders used it to heat their homes, to cook, and to survive the long winters when the ocean howled, as if angry at the land. Then one day, someone thought, why not dry the barley with it? And that changed everything. When smoke from burning peat drifted through the barley, it left behind something magical: flavor. Earthy, smoky, sea-kissed. Whiskey would never be the same again. Imagine that first moment. The distiller leaning over the kiln, barley spread out above, peat smoke curling up through the floorboards. Maybe he coughed a little, waved the smoke away, and thought, well, that's new. Back then, distilling wasn't exactly legal. Many islanders made whiskey in secret, hiding their stills in glens or barns, using whatever materials they had on hand. And on Islay, that meant peat fires. Cheap, plentiful, and easy to hide the smell from the excise men. The smoke was part accident, part necessity, but soon it became identity. When you live on an island beaten by wind and salt, you use what you have. Islay turned hardship into flavor, and flavor into legend. By the 1800s, when the distilleries went legit, that same smoke that once meant secrecy now meant pride. Laphroaig, Lagavulin, Ardbeg, names that today make whiskey lovers sit up a little straighter. Picture the malting floors, long rooms filled with barley being turned by hand, the air so thick with smoke you could taste it before you saw it. The workers' clothes smelled like campfire for days. They used to joke that if you worked the kilns long enough, even your breakfast tasted like peat. One guy swore he could smell Laphroaig on his dog after a windy day. That's how you know it's part of life. Peat isn't just about smoke. It's about precision. Distillers talk about phenols, those chemical markers of smokiness, measured in parts per million. Some go heavy, 50, 60 parts per million. Others lighter, more balanced. But all of them are chasing that fine line between warmth and wildfire. And even the water plays a role. On Islay, streams run right through the peat bogs. The water itself turns brown, rich, full of character. So even before the fire starts, the island's already whispering into the whiskey. For generations, peat cutting was a seasonal ritual. Men went out with spades to slice the bog, stacking blocks to dry under the weak summer sun. It was muddy, backbreaking work, but it was theirs. When it dried, the peat was light but robust. A handful could heat a room, or flavor a barrel's worth of malt. Each sod carried centuries of decay, and the promise of one very good dram. And when that fire met the grain, that's when the island's smoky soul came alive. It wasn't science, not really. It was alchemy. Earth and air and time coming together in a puff of blue smoke. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll wander down the southern coast of Islay, where 5 of the island's great distilleries stand side by side, and see how each one captured the fire in its own way.
You're listening to the Cigar and Whiskey Podcast, your companion for cigar culture, whiskey wisdom, and everything in between. Want more? Visit us anytime at cigarandwhiskeyguide.com for articles, reviews, and pairing tips.
Welcome back. Let's take that walk along the shore. Waves crashing on black rocks, the smell of salt and smoke in the air. You can practically taste it before you even find the distilleries. First up, Laphroaig. Founded in 1815 by Donald and Alexander Johnston, It sits on Islay's southern coast just outside Port Ellen. The distillery uses heavily peated malt from Port Ellen maltings and still operates its own traditional floor maltings for a portion of production. Laphroaig's character comes from drying the barley over peat-rich in seaweed and moss, giving its whiskey that unmistakable iodine, brine, and medicinal smoke. Its single malts are matured in ex-bourbon casks, producing the bold, salty profile that divides drinkers. Some swear by it, others never go back. Just down the coast lies Lagavulin, established officially in 1816, though illicit stills had operated on the site long before. Known for its slow distillation process and use of heavily peated malt, Lagavulin creates a dense, oily whiskey famous for the balance between smoke and sweetness. The core 16-year-old expression remains a benchmark of Islay style: rich peat, dried fruit, and maritime depth. Today, it's part of Diageo's classic malts, yet production still takes place in the same sheltered bay that's shaped its flavor for 2 centuries. Next comes Ardbeg, founded in 1815 and long considered one of the most intensely peated whiskies on the planet, around 50 to 55 parts per million phenols. After closing in the 1980s, Ardbeg was revived in the late 90s under Glenmorangi's ownership, bringing the brand roaring back. Modern Ardbeg combines powerful smoke with bright citrus and espresso notes, thanks to its purifier system on the stills that refines the spirit without losing strength. Fans call it a perfect mix of science and smoke, a cult favorite with serious engineering behind the chaos. Further up the coast stands Bowmore, founded in 1779, making it Islay's oldest licensed distillery. It still malts a portion of its own barley on traditional floors and ages spirit in a legendary #1 vaults warehouse below sea level. Bowmore's style is more balanced: medium peat levels, tropical fruit, and a hint of sherry sweetness from its mix of bourbon and Oloroso casks. It's often called the gateway to Islay, approachable yet unmistakably coastal. And then there's Kilchoman, the modern pioneer. Established in 2005 as Islay's first new distillery in over 120 years, Kilchoman operates as a genuine farm-to-bottle distillery, growing, malting, and distilling its own barley on site. Its whiskies, like the Machir Bay and Saneg, use peat from the island and shorter maturation to produce a vibrant, smoky spirit that proves tradition and innovation can coexist. Each of these distilleries tells the same story with a different accent. Same island, same peat, same sea, but every bottle speaks in its own dialect. That's the beauty of Islay. Individuality born from the same soil. You know, for a place so small, Islay holds an oversized pride. Islanders will tell you their whiskey is the best because it tastes like where they live. And you believe them, because when you sip it, you can feel that place. You can feel the salt spray. You can feel the wind pushing at your coat. You can hear the peat crackle underfoot. And somewhere, faintly, the laughter of someone cutting a new block for next winter's fire. It's funny. Peat starts as decay, but in whiskey, it becomes memory. Every bottle is a time capsule of the land. Every sip, a reminder that beauty can come from the bleakest places. Now, Bow's barrel notes. You pour yourself a dram, let's say Lagavulin 16, maybe Laphroaig 10 if you're feeling brave, and take that first slow sniff. Campfire, seaweed, lemon peel. It's not polite, it's alive. Take a sip. The smoke rolls in like fog on a cold morning. It fills your mouth, your nose, your head, but instead of choking you, it hugs you. That's what surprises people. They expect fire, but they get warmth. Sweetness follows: brine, malt, a little oak. It's a flavor that moves like the tide, and as it fades, you catch that long finish. Ash, vanilla, salted caramel. The echo of smoke lingers like a good story told twice. You don't rush it, you let it fade, slow and soft. That's the magic of Islay. Not perfection, personality. Every sip feels like a handshake from someone who's spent their life in the wind, proud of where they're from, happy to share it with you. You start to realize that the whiskey isn't just shaped by the land. It is the land. The bogs, the rain, the sea, the stubborn people who keep the fires burning generation after generation. And maybe that's why Islay whiskeys inspire such loyalty. You don't just drink them. You join their story. You become part of that smoky, salt-sprayed lineage stretching back 200 years. So tonight, when you pour a glass, think of the peat cutters who once hauled those heavy sods through the rain. Think of the distillers who tended fires long before electricity. Think of the island that turned mud into magic, because that's what this really is. A transformation. Earth becoming smoke, smoke becoming spirit, spirit becoming memory. From bog to barrel, from flame to glass, every drop carries the pride of a place that refused to settle for ordinary. And maybe that's the real lesson hidden in the peat. Sometimes, the hardest ground gives you the richest soul. And before we close tonight's journey, let's step into the pairing room, where smoke meets flavor in a whole new way.
And now let's step into the pairing room, where flavor meets craftsmanship, and we break down the perfect match between smoke and sip.
The fire's glowing low, a bit of jazz in the background, and the air smells like oak and leather. Time to talk about what goes hand in hand with Islay's smoky soul. If you're new to peat-heavy Scotch, the first rule is simple: let it lead. These whiskies carry big flavor: smoke, salt, iodine, and seaweed. You want a cigar or a plate that can dance with that, not get trampled by it. Start with Laphroaig 10. It's the wild one, medicinal, briny, unapologetically smoky. To balance it, go creamy and smooth. A Connecticut broadleaf wrapper works beautifully. Think Perdomo 10th Anniversary Maduro or Oliva Serie V, Melanio Maduro. Cocoa and espresso wrap around the peat smoke like a velvet glove on a calloused hand. Or if you're snacking, try blue cheese and dark honey. The salt and funk in the cheese amplify the whiskey's coastal edge, while the honey smooths out that medicinal bite. It's waves crashing into caramel. Then there's Lagavulin 16. More refined, slower, deeper. The smoke is elegant, the sweetness subtle, like someone whispering, "Pay attention." Pair it with a Habano or Corojo cigar, my father, Le Bijou, 1922, or Arturo Fuente, Don Carlos. Cedar and spice meet dark fruit and oak in perfect rhythm. For food, go classic. Seared steak or grilled lamb chops. The char on the meat echoes the whiskey's smoke, while the fat carries its flavor long after you swallow. And if you pour an Ardbeg 10, you're heading into full peat territory. You need a cigar with backbone. Padron 1964, Anniversary Maduro, or La Flor Dominicana Double Ligero. Big, oily, complex. Smoke meets smoke. For food, dark chocolate with sea salt or smoked brisket. Fire meeting fire, and somehow they make each other better. One more tip: pair Islay whiskies with coffee. A strong espresso or cold brew works wonders. The roasted notes tame the peat, revealing its hidden sweetness. At the end of the day, that's what pairing's all about: finding balance between bold and gentle, smoke and sweetness, fire and calm. So pour your dram, light your cigar, and take a long draw. The island gave us smoke. The rest? That's up to your palate.
That wraps up this visit to the pairing room. Whether it's bourbon, scotch, or espresso, remember, the best pairing is the one shared with good company.
And that's the beauty of Islay. It's not just a place that makes whiskey. It's a place that inspires ritual. From the first puff of smoke to the last sip of scotch, every sense is invited to the conversation. We started with peat, humble, ancient, stubborn, and followed it all the way to pride. And now, whether you're savoring that Lagavulin by the fire or sharing an Ardbeg with friends, you're part of that same story. So until next time, keep exploring, keep pairing, and keep finding those moments where flavor meets feeling. From the bogs of Islay to wherever you raise your glass, slant.
Thanks for listening to the Cigar and Whiskey Podcast. Subscribe and share with a fellow aficionado, and keep the journey going at cigarandwhiskeyguide.com, where every puff and pour has a story. Thanks for listening to the Cigar and Whiskey Podcast. Subscribe and share with a fellow aficionado, and keep the journey going at cigarandwhiskeyguide.com, where every puff and pour has a story.